The Board of Aldermen of the Village of Salado workshop is called to order at 5:00 p.m. Madam Secretary Kathy, will you please call roll?
Mayor Ingram. Mayor Pro Tem Gunn.
Present.
Alderman Sandor. Here. Alderman Lassiter.
Here.
Alderman Ventura. Alderman Mosa.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. We do have 5 that are present, 1 that is not present, or 4 is present.
So for public comments, we're going to save all public comments for the actual Alderman meeting, which will be hopefully right at 6 o'clock tonight. Try to save time, but often you can gather your feedback from our workshop discussion here, and you're welcome to come up for public comment at that point. And with that, I will open up to the first agenda item, which is discussions regarding the May 31st, 2026 financial monthly report.
So good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Board of Aldermen. Just going to walk through a summary of the financial report for, through the end of May of this year. So if you want to follow along or as we walk through, I'm not going to hit every page necessarily, but I will hit every section of it. On the first page is a summary of the fund balances, again, through the end of year to date, which is through the end of May. General fund is listed as just over $2.1 million in current assets and liabilities at just over $1.1 million, with a total fund balance of $1,033,239. The other funds are provided under the occupancy tax fund or HOT fund, wastewater fund and operating deposits, the wastewater bonds, 2025 capital projects, and the debt service. One thing going back to the general fund, I'd like to note under liabilities on deposits, that specific line is a dollar amount of $1,047,055. That amount includes the $945,000 approximate that is the deposit from Celts International for the Salado Center development. So that is the funds that has been noted and discussed over the past number of months. So that's where those funds are currently sitting, or as of May we're sitting, so are reflected in this monthly financial report. Yes. Yeah, please stop me if you have questions.
Okay. So just more of an explanation than anything else. This 2025 capital project of basically $1 million, 1056, is this for paying our portion of construction when we get like the West Village Road and things like that?
It is, and if you'll hold that question, okay. I'll come to that later in this report.
Let me back in. I just would ask you that you talk about any unfunded portions that we need to be concerned about, because I see $1 million here, but I don't know if that means we have everything funded or there's some portion that's still unfunded that we have to worry about from a budget perspective.
I'll try to do that. I may have to follow up with you after the meeting on that, but as I go through this, I'll touch on each of these funds here in a moment. Any other questions on the fund summaries? If not.
No, but one comment.
Yes.
West Village Road is fully funded, so we have to get capital to pay and then we get reimbursed. It's up to $5.5 million. So that's a revolver to pay, and then you get reimbursed throughout the construction process. And I assume that was part of it.
I assume that was part of this $1 million. My real question was, do we have anything that's unfunded at this point in time? The liability that's out there that we know construction's coming, we owe a part from the village perspective, but we don't have the funds set aside to do it.
That I'm
I
aware
don't know
of
that I can answer that as part of this May financial report, but I can get you the information on
Thank
that.
You.
Turning the page to the balance sheet, or the first page of the general fund balance sheet. Again, this is through the May, just as a reminder. Total assets were at $10,277,522. If you turn the page, total liabilities are at $1,206,495, leaving the total liabilities and equity at $10,277,522. The next page, or excuse me, I'm going to jump ahead here to, it's page 6 of 6 under General Fund Profit and Loss Budget Performance. The Total expenses through the end of May for year to date are $682,135. Our budget for through the end of May was budgeted was $542,233 was our projected. That leaves we are over the budget on it at about $139,902. The annual budget we're projected to have a balance of $200,000, which is that's a good thing because that will allow us to put that amount into our reserve fund and help build up the city's reserve fund, which is below currently below where we need it to be. So we're on track to be adding funds into the city's reserve fund, barring any unexpected increases in expenses or downturns in revenues between now the end of May and the end of our fiscal year in September.
Does that $200K include the Q4 from the Q2 anticipated? We don't know what that is.
It does not.
Yeah, that would be
anything additional from that area of the Salado Center, which will start receiving those sales tax revenues rather from that area are starting to be collected July 1st, and those were unbudgeted revenues. So we'll start to see those for sometime in September, according to what the comptroller's office told you, Ryan Nelson. So that's a good point.
I guess just one comment, John, is it's a lot of numbers and it's easy to sort of get lost in them. Would it be possible for us to put something like a cash flow view? Because I'm expecting a lot of this stuff is pretty lumpy. We've got property sales taxes that come in. We've got sales taxes. We've got fees, and these hit at different times. And what I was trying to figure out, reading through all this, is basically what's our low level that we have to be at from a cash perspective. And it's difficult by looking at all this to sort of put all that together.
I can go ahead.
And so what I was hoping we could do is something sort of had a last 12 months sort of a cash view, right? Of here's the things that come in that are, call it income for no better word. I hate to use that word with government income. Here's our expenses that we have, and therefore my cash position by month looks like this over time. And we can also that helps us be more aware of how close are we getting to that low level where you say, what level of reserve do we need to have to run our normal operations? And along those lines, I'll also ask if we have a line of credit in case we needed it, because we were close to that reserve number.
The line of credit, as you said, wouldn't be a traditional line of credit like you would in private banking or something.
Yeah.
We have, that's what our reserve funds are for. And other revenues, our cash flow, as you referenced, property tax, it doesn't come in, our revenues don't come in evenly throughout the year.
Right, it's lumpy. That's the whole point of the cash view.
The property tax revenues are front-loaded in our budget. Well,
right.
I say front-loaded in the first quarter to early second quarter of the fiscal year.
But sales tax are going to come in quarterly.
Sales tax will
so
come in, actually sales tax come in monthly. To your point, it's really hard to see that on a monthly basis, but if we get to quarterly financial statements and update, we can start to
that'd be fine too.
Provide a clearer picture.
I expect we have a big surplus at the beginning of the year, and we dwindle that down as time goes on.
Correct.
And it'd be nice to have a visual view of that, in addition to the how are we doing versus the budget, blah, blah, blah. I think that would help put all the numbers in context a lot easier.
Yep, we can do that. I'm going to jump ahead to page 1. I'm sorry, this is page 1 of 1 on the general fund profit and loss previous year comparison. It's a graph on your page, so when you find that. So for general fund revenues, on the revenue side, revenues for this year are behind where they were at the end of May of last year, and the reason for that is last year, to your point, Alderman Ventura, the property tax revenues that came in at the beginning of last year were higher. The tax rate went to voters in May, was not passed, and after that did not pass, there was a refund back to property tax revenues. That later this fiscal year, you'll see an adjustment in that, and they will adjust. So even though we look like we're not bringing in as much revenue as we did last year, that by the end of this fiscal year, it will have a different picture in that regard. What that difference will be, I don't know. I can't tell you from right now. We don't know yet.
But we know that wasn't the return like 470K?
Somewhere in that ballpark, yes.
So we know that last year's number is for sure 470K lower than what we're seeing on the.
I'm hesitant to give numbers because I wasn't here.
Okay,
working
I'm pretty
at
sure that's
that
what it
point,
was.
so.
Okay,
But that will show up in a future financial report that you'll receive. You'll see that adjustment occur.
So are you saying that this reduced level of property tax is the state going forward, or you're expecting it's going to jump back up again?
No, I'm saying the revenue from last year will drop, because this is through May of last year, which included the property tax that was collected at some point after May of last year. A portion of that revenue was refunded back, so that was no longer revenue. So the revenue last year will decrease, actually decrease below what you're seeing here.
So does this mean we need to start expecting to have a smaller total budget before the village?
No. This is last year. This year it's accurate. For this year, it's fine. This year's revenues are not going to, property tax wise, won't change. They are what they are.
What this tells me, we got better revenue this year and our expenses are lower than last year.
Right. That's correct.
But it doesn't show that on the graph because we had to give a check back.
Okay. And right. so
reduction back in revenue at the point in time of more tax revenue will be adjusted in the next 2 to 3 months.
Correct.
And then you'll have a true picture of the other more tax.
But the expectation I'm walking away with is that there's a number here for October 25 through May 26, which says revenue $2.163 million versus the year before was 2.5. I think what you're telling me, if I understand this correctly, is that 2.1, regardless of what happens to sales taxes, which are going to go up a little bit, this is a number we should be thinking about in terms of what our annual village budget will be.
No, this is just property tax.
Okay.
This is just property tax. The number that's going to change is that 2.5 number. It's going to decrease.
Okay.
Because when that refund occurred, it will lower that revenue side.
Somewhere on that.
I'm glad Neil does budget and I don't.
Well, when I saw that graph earlier, it kind of threw me. I was like, what? But, so yeah.
Yep. Turning the page, which is 1 of 3 on the, well, actually, we just talked about that. So sorry, I'm going to skip ahead to the hot fund budget, which is page 1 of 2. Hot fund, hotel motel fund, and that's on. I apologize. These are printed individually, so they're not a continuous numeric page numbering numerically. Yeah. So the hotel motel fund balance sheet. I'm going to start there. It's labeled as page 1. The total, it's under assets and then liabilities and equity. The total assets for the hotel motel fund is $395,725. That's the unallocated cash balance in the hot fund balance that we've talked about in the past or previously. Total equity, liabilities and equity rather is the same dollar amount. That's just a point of reference as of the end of May. Turning the page on, again, still on the hotel motel fund, the income, specifically the occupancy tax amount through the end of May was $150,369. Year-to-date, or excuse me, the year-to-date budget was $166,666. Even though we're showing that we're running behind budget by about $16,000. Don't get too concerned about because again, this is through the end of May, and the village's hot fund revenues typically jump starting in the summertime with vacations. And so again, as we move forward over the next few months, we should see a significant increase in our hot fund revenues as we go through the summer or get past the summer.
Probably a small detail, but do you happen to know what the hotel tax rate is? So if someone spends a night here and it's $100 for the hotel, what's the tax rate on top of it?
I don't recall right off the cuff, but I can get that for you.
I was just trying to get a sense of, comparing Salado to other places. Are we in the middle? Are we high? Are we low? Where are we at on that tax rate?
All right, I'm going to jump ahead, still staying on the hotel motel fund, to the comparison this year versus last year. Income for last year, again, is higher at this point, through the end of May, was higher last year than it was this year. The expenses also year-to-date are lower year-to-date this year than they were last year, though, also. So even though our revenues are down, our expenses are also down, that we're coming out of the hot fund. Again, that will change. The revenue side particularly will change as we progress through the summertime and into the fall. Any questions on the hot fund?
Yeah, I think we just need to get our hands around a solid budget, because there's no question the money that was spent over the 4th of July, I think, is going to have a solid impact on the number of people that were in town. But I think we need to solidify that, because I don't think we really have a true budget on what projects we can and cannot going forward, from my understanding. So
that'll be training next Thursday with the Texas Hotel Lodging Association.
I mean, it's good we have some reserves, and I think we tapped into that. I think it was money well spent, but, you know, I also don't want to go negative in the bucket as well. So. Right. So, turning the page to the wastewater system revenue balance sheet, total assets for the wastewater revenue is $112,201. That's the unallocated cash balance. To give you a point of reference, that typically the policy, our policy normally calls for 33% of annual expenditures. We're currently at, through the end of May, we're at 27% of our annual expenditures, so we're running a little bit low on that dollar amount.
What do you mean by policy? So we've got a...
We need to have a reserve fund, and that the amount of reserve fund by policy under the Government Finance Officers Association recommended to be 33% of annual expenditures, and that's basically that's like having an emergency fund in case there's unexpected.
So we cover repairs or things like that.
Catastrophic that are unbudgeted, significant unbudgeted costs that may arise.
And I thought a 27% OP was a good number. You're telling me it needs to be 33%.
Yeah, that's what they recommend.
Do we? And this is, I looked at this from sort of a P&L perspective, right? You know, $354,000 fees, $146 spent for the contract, 50 for repairs, so it ends up with a net income of $158, and minus utilities, you end up with $94K income, 27%, as you said. Would it be possible to get a little bit of snapshot of the consumers of the sewage? You know, how many are residential, how many are business, what's their average bill, what rates do they pay, that type of thing? So we get a snapshot as to, you know, how much of this is residential versus commercial. Because I know we're going to go into that planning session soon about how this grows. I think we're going to have to also understand how those numbers grow as well.
Okay. Yes, we can provide that.
Yes, Alan, I have a lot of questions.
Turning the page, again, still under the wastewater system revenues. This gets to the profit and loss. Total income through the end of May was $367,077. Year to date, total expenses are $273,049. Those are both above, tracking in a positive direction. The revenues are above projected revenues for the year to date, and our expenses are below, are just right at, or actually $4,000 above the budget, but pretty much right on track with our budget for expenses. That leaves a net revenues at $48,728. So again, to the point of that's helping build up our reserve fund in the utility fund, or in the wastewater fund, I should say.
I have some questions for you, John.
Sure.
On the balance sheet, we have a payable due to the general fund of roughly $79,000. And we have over 100,000 sitting in the checking account. I just want to make note right now, as we look at the third quarter coming to an end next month, that we at least consider removing that liability to the general fund if we have enough left in cash to do so. You were saying 32% of our annual revenue estimate would be about $120,000 roughly, maybe 140,000 in cash. Is that what you're saying that we would need if our total revenues are running 470,000, roughly our budget? 30% of that.
Not revenues, expenditures.
Expenditures. I didn't hear that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then it makes it even more pertinent, I guess. So
yeah.
What would be 30% of your annual expenditures would be total expenses 410. Well, they're talking about 120,000 in a rainy day fund for,
right.
That was the standard for a wastewater facilities?
Yeah, wastewater as well as the general fund in our, yes.
But we really need to put it as in our cash is perhaps utilize that and take the general fund liability out when we can.
Right, so that will be a decision that you all will
for
have
the upcoming budget, and maybe
at
clearing that out before we get to the end of the fiscal year.
At the end of this fiscal year, yeah, when we do a final.
Okay, fair enough. But we should.
We'll do a final, but at the end of the fiscal year, we'll have a budget amendment.
If the rough math is right, we should be able to do that and clear that liability out and have enough in our cash account to move forward.
That's correct.
We have 3 more months of that. So, okay.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay, that's all.
So to your point, on the page showing the profit, the comparison with last year's on the wastewater versus this year through the end of May, on the at the top, it shows the graphs, and our revenues the revenues are exceeding our revenues from last year to date, and the expenditures are slightly above, but pretty much close to the budgeted. Up above on that dollar change, the net income of $63,848. That's the dollar amount that could go back be transferred at the end of the fiscal year as of May, if that holds, into the general fund, or you can put it into the reserve fund.
Well, we can deal with that when we're doing our budgeting and planning for 2027 and carry that at that point. Yep. I think the good news on the wastewater system revenues is, at the moment, we have a significantly positive cash flow off of that. That's correct. And moving forward with and we do know, based off of our recent visit, that the treatment plant itself, as it's now running, is in very good condition. So that's correct. We have no deferred maintenance at all on it. We're up to speed on everything, and it's performing as it's required, at least at this point, by TCEQ. Acknowledging rather, that we are going to have some new requirements probably placed on us by TCEQ coming forth in the renewal of our permit. So that's correct. Yeah, I do. Okay. I don't have any further questions on it. Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to jump ahead a few pages to the wastewater permanent improvement bonds. I'll wait a few minutes for a little bit for you to get there.
Just for clarification's sake, what is a wastewater customer deposit? There's a balance sheet for that.
So we receive deposits. Everybody that sets up a wastewater account as a customer, they're required to provide a deposit, and that's where we track those. If they're current on their bill when they are no longer a customer, that gets refunded back to them, or it's deducted from that amount if they don't pay their last bill. All right, on the wastewater permanent improvement bonds, the total check checking savings is $501,691. Total that factors in those. That comes from impact fees. That's the amount of impact fees we have received through the end of May. Total, that factors into our total assets of $10,393,747, which is also our total liabilities and equity for the bonds amount. So the point to that is not so much the 10 million, though that's an important part, but the amount on our impact fees that we've received year to date through the end of May. Jumping ahead, I'm going to turn then to the interest and sinking fund. And this gets back to Alderman Vancouver and Alderman Dunch, your comments on the capital and the funding for capital projects specific to the wastewater. The sinking fund, the total assets is $956,648. That is the wastewater tax note for $1.3 million in roadway projects is what those funds are sitting there for. And bear with me here. I'm going to turn the page to the next page, which again is it relates to the interest and sinking fund on debt payments. Property tax revenues through the end of the year related to this is a portion of the property tax revenues that are collected is $927,635. And that's right on track with what we had budgeted for that revenue for year to date. Total expenditures year to date are through the end of May are $256,953, and again that's right at our budgeted amount, leaving a net income in that fund of $684,983. That money it's sitting there. It will be used for debt payments. It just we haven't had to use it yet because those projects are still ongoing, and as we move through future capital projects or continue to move forward.
Make sure I translate that in my head. So you're saying we have $684,000 basically that'll be available for capital projects in the future for the wastewater plant?
That's our sinking fund. We've got more fund. We have more funding available. And I'll come to that here in a moment. But that's not the grants. That's not all the funding. So if you turn 2 pages forward to capital projects, at the top it says 500 2025 capital projects. Total assets are $1,056,507. That is the funding. That's the amount available as of the end of May. That was the available funding amount left for funding for Royal Street, the EPA grant on the wastewater treatment plant, and the Williams Road project. The total amount the court for those projects is just below that under total liabilities is $1,350,000. So again, that's through the end of May on where we were as of the end of May on those projects. The balance sheet.
I may need a novice explanation. So we have assets of $1 million, but we have liabilities greater than that. So by when do we need to close the gap on that so we can fund those projects? Am I misinterpreting this?
I think you're misinterpreting. I'm not following you on the.
I'm on the balance sheet. It talks about current assets for capital projects of $1,056,000.
Right.
And it has long-term liabilities below that for $1,350,000, which is.
So if you go down below, the total liabilities and equity is $1,056,507.
Right. Assets equal liabilities. I guess my question still is, and maybe you'll get to it later, is do we have unfunded capital projects? I'm still. I'll hold my tongue to have you help understand that.
Again, I think that's another topic for another day. I can't answer that. I don't have the information here for on unfunded capital projects. I apologize. Turning the page to, again, still on capital projects. Under expenses, you can see capital projects are itemized or listed as pavement and drainage, Royal Street improvements, Williams Road sidewalk. The expenses as of the end of May had this village had spent $282,778. There was some minor other expenses, but excuse me, the total is actually $282,856 rather, through the end of May on those capital projects. So, the project that we haven't talked on that's not included in the May financial report because nothing had been occurring yet is the West Village Road project. We do have grant funding kind of ties to your questions, Alderman Vancouver, but we have funding available on that, but that's not reflected here yet as of through May. That project and the funding for that project will show up on future financial reports that we provide you. So I realize that's a lot of numbers and walking through stuff, and I apologize we don't have a PowerPoint for audience members to show it in graphs or charts, but any questions?
Yeah. On the P&L for capital projects, you have $162,155 spent during the fiscal year October 25 to May 26, right? Is that for the bridge repair and the things we did last year on that big pothole on Royal Street that we fixed down there by the Box Culvert Bridge? And what was that expense? I'm sure it was, but I'm
not able to answer that question.
Okay.
I wasn't here then, and
it would have been before you were here.
Yeah.
I feel like we're picking on you because you've only been here, what, 6 weeks?
45 days. I'm actually 7 weeks.
Well, no, we thought you'd have all this under your hat by now, but anyway, no, I was just going to point that out. We've already spent that much money on Royal Street. That's not new money with respect to the project that you've been working on. This is just repairs that we made.
It may be some of the repairs that you're talking about. It's also engineering for the design work on Royal Street.
I don't think the 162 was for the repair. Good question, but I assume that this includes MRB fees specifically conducive to the Royal Street project.
That is correct.
And then am I overstepping? Okay.
No.
And forgive me if this is ignorant, but would legal fees pertaining to that project be seen on this line item, or would that be found somewhere else?
That's a separate line item in the general fund.
Okay, thank you.
So can we just get a breakdown of that, because I'm just curious. I thought that bridge repair was in there, because I think the way that funding was, it can be for all types of repairs, not just Royal Street, for all roads. If I recall correctly, that was how that was structured, because that bridge was collapsing literally, and we had to repair it. But that's just a repair. That bridge still needs to be cleaned.
I don't remember, Mayor Pro Tem, that being that much money. That's why I'm sure there's some other things in there associated with it, but a detailed breakdown maybe next time would be great. John, if you have a chance to do that. That was really all I had on that, but I would note Alderman Vancouver's point. I mean, we basically have a negative equity on that particular entity with the tax notes out there, so we're going to have to address that at some point as we go forward. One thing on a bigger picture, John, is that do I need to call you John now, or do I call you
that's
Mr.
fine.
Administrator, or what I do?
You can call me John, that's fine.
Okay. We have had discussions in the past, going back last year, about the use of tax pool to maximize our interest income off of cash balances we have in these accounts. And I know you are excuse me, sitting in this position for not very long, and I just want to bring it to your attention that a lot of people here look at interest income and what we're doing with our cash balances and using tax pool and their interest rate to the extent they're superior to the use of our bank arrangement with Horizon needs to be looked at or considered from time to time. In the past, we've actually had an investment manager here, and it's in our bylaws, our charter, that we can do that. And if we could certainly find somebody as an investment manager to help us move those funds and maximize those profits, interest income along the way, since that really more or less is a treasury function. And there's a lot of other things you're having to do, but cash management, when you have $3 or $4 million in the bank and you got 3%, 4%, 5% interest rates, adds up to a sizable amount of money.
You're right, and I apologize, I didn't mention that, and
Go ahead.
I don't have it noted, so I can't tell you which page it's on, but we have the village has done that on the revenues. Instead of putting them in a standard savings or checking account with very low interest rate, they have been invested in a higher earning interest rate, as you're talking about. I forget the name of that. I believe it's tax pool.
Yeah. You see the Horizon or tax pool, and tax pool is an entity that would provide typically a little bit higher rate than Horizon would as a commercial bank. But I just wanted to point it out as a matter of importance going forward, and how you choose to manage cash balances in excess of our short-term needs is something that you might want to consider as far as an investment manager goes, or somebody can talk to you to help perhaps monitor those funds so we can maximize our interest income. That's all I have.
John, I don't remember which alderman it was, but someone made a request for, I think maybe several of them made a request for going back to the Rural Street improvements line item, the $162,155.53. I think the ask was that could we have that broken out by the next meeting? I would prefer to see that before 2 weeks from now, please. If you could just email that to us or have someone send that to us when it's ready. Sure. Anytime next week would be great, I would say, please. Because I don't think any of us really know what that breakdown is, and it's a small enough number, I would think that,
No, we'll have it, and I know the majority of that is for engineering fees related to that project, but we can get the breakdown.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, if everyone's ready to move on, we'll go to the next agenda item. Okay. We'll move on to the next agenda item is discussion regarding the police department monthly report. So, President Dunphy, come on up.
Good evening. All right. So I'm Lieutenant Dunphy. Normally, Chief Ellen Fields presents this every month, but he is away, so I am going to take over for this meeting. So we're going to jump right into calls for service. They decreased by 109, 866 to 757. Overall, the police department responded to 25.23 calls on average per day. Let's see here. We had, now as far as reports generated, we have 5 arrests which were made during the month of June. 128 traffic stops were conducted, resulting in 74 citations, 89 warnings. We had the highest number of dispatch calls were traffic stops, which were self-initiated activities. We had 1 officer appear before the grand jury for a felony case this last month as well. I'm going to be moving on to the call for service by month between January and June. We have January through June there, and that just basically displays our our history, our call history from then till now. Yearly calls for service, we have a breakdown there. We're up on the calls for service at 7201. And notable calls for service, we had one on June 1st, which is a driving while intoxicated call. An officer initiated a traffic stop on a vehicle due to a reckless driver complaint on IH-35. He made contact with the subject in the vehicle, or operating the motor vehicle, and there was odor of an alcohol beverage emitting from his person and the vehicle. At that point, he conducted a field sobriety test, and he was placed in custody for suspicion of DWI. At that point, he was arrested, taken to the jail, and his BAC, his blood alcohol concentration, was 0.101. So, moving on to the 6th of June, officer was dispatched to a disturbance in progress in the 300 block of South Main. Upon arrival, he contacted the primary aggressor in that disturbance. Parties were separated. They determined that the subject was highly intoxicated, abusive, and threatening, so he was placed in custody for public intoxication, transported to the Bell County Jail. The next one was June 9th. There was another reckless driver call on 35. Officer was trying to locate the vehicle. He conducted a traffic stop with a probable cause, and he noticed several signs of impairment during his roadside investigation, field sobriety test. And at that point, the operator admitted to taking a prescription drug, clonazepam. I'm sorry, I jacked that up. Another prescription pill was later located in the subject's front pocket. The subject was taken to Bell County and booked in for DWI and possession of a dangerous drug, which is also a misdemeanor as well. If you have a prescription drug that is not in your name or not in that pill bottle, then it's possession of a dangerous drug, Class A misdemeanor. So, and then moving on to the end of the month, which is June 28th, evading arrest on foot, possession of marijuana, and assault ×2. We had an officer go to one of the bars in the 400 block of South Main for an assault call. A subject decided to assault a patron over an argument, and then assault the security guard. Then got an argument out in the street. Our officer made contact, attempted to place him or detain him in handcuffs and further investigate. And at that point, he decided to run. So our officer gave chase on foot. Later, the subject surrendered. He was placed in custody and taken to the jail, and he was charged with evading on foot from a police officer, possession of marijuana, which was on his person at that time, and admitted to having it, and the 2 assaults. Moving on to house watch and area watches. Officers conducted 37 house watches and 92 area checks. Response times were a little bit slower comparing to May. The priority 1 calls for service were averaging 8 minutes and 2 seconds compared to 6 minutes and 13 seconds in May.
Any color commentary behind that? Because I think I don't see it on all these, but this is probably one of the longer response times I've seen for P1s. Is it a concerning number? Is it an expected number? Is there things that we could do to reduce that? Do we need to worry about it? I mean, just looking for some color commentary on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we like to monitor, and I like to try to dig in and look at video and look at the circumstances behind it. It does appear to be during the rainy season, we do get a lot of crash calls that are P1 and P2, priority 1 and 2. And depending on where they're at, especially at the 284, you have to go all the way into City Belton to loop back around and get on the highway because we can't cut across the median, otherwise we'll get stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
So that is one of the reasons. Also, we don't have an overlapping shift. We are shorthanded at this point. So if an officer is already stuck on a certain call, we have to call Bell County to respond. And a lot of times they're 30 minutes out. So we are trying to work on that, and that is something we do want to try to bring down.
I mean, do you have a benchmark? Do you look at, cities of, I'm not sure we have a city of a similar size around us, but I mean, if we were to compare ourselves to the surrounding areas, what would you expect their response times to look like? If there is a comparable to Salado, that is.
I would say we're probably the same, if not better.
Yeah.
And I'm just speculating. I mean, I could definitely look into it. But at the same time, even though we do have code 3 response, lights and sirens, we can only travel so fast in the village without being reckless and hurting ourselves or somebody else trying to respond to a call. And if we can't respond, then we're kind of useless. But no, if there's things that we can put in place or correct, we plan to see that.
There's no ask from the police department at this point in time we need this or this to improve this. You're still keeping an eye on it, but there's no actionable item coming from this at this point in time.
Well, we are trying to hire that one vacant position we do have.
Okay.
And anything else that we did need, we did put in the budget, and we should be solid at that point.
Okay.
Alderman Vancouver, a month ago when Chief Fields gave this report to us, he talked about this, and he talked about not liking the former 6-minute, 13-second average, and him wanting to see that, I believe, in the 5.5 or 5-minute range.
Okay.
I think that's, I'm not exactly sure what he said, but he does have a threshold that he's aiming for with his department that's like a minute shorter than the shorter of the two we're looking at tonight.
So it's on his radar, and they're noodling through what they need to do.
I think he's probably displeased that it's 8 minutes right now, based on what he told us a month ago.
And it does depend. I mean, you have one officer, if they're on the other side of the county line on a stranded motorist, or they're all the way out in Mustang Springs, and that road with the trucks traveling on it, we can't travel 60 miles an hour. We got to go slower. Otherwise, we'll end up in the ditch. So,
we appreciate that.
Yeah,
yes.
there's a lot of there's a lot of factors there, but no, we'll definitely keep striving to get that number lower.
Okay. A sidebar question, I guess.
Sure.
Golf carts. I'm assuming they're considered vehicles on the road. They have to obey the laws like other vehicles on the road do. Stop at stop signs, speed limits, all those types of things. Anything we should be doing proactively to bring it up and remind them that they are, you have to be a minimum age, you have to stop at stop signs, all those types of things. I just mentioned it because as I look at my road and I watch the people, golf carts many more times than vehicles, run through the stop signs with reckless abandon. Many times I'm wondering what the age of the driver is on the golf cart, especially during summer times. Do we do public safety? Do we do reminders? Do we do things like that would help push us, at least inform a bit the public, just make sure they're all aware of these topics? Is that helpful? Does it make an impact?
We haven't necessarily, I guess maybe a Facebook push or I know that other cities do have a section for golf cart rules, which may help if we could list it and put state law and the village ordinance, which mirrors that. But we do stop vehicles when we can. We can't be everywhere.
Right.
Also, we have to have probable cause or at least reasonable suspicion that a crime is taking place, about to be committed, or before we can pull somebody over. Because I will tell you this, there's some times that I've pulled some people over for failure to signal within 100 feet on a golf cart, and I pull them over and they look like they're 12 years old, but they have a full Class C license and they're 17.
Yeah.
So you can't just discriminate on what they look like. So I have to make sure I'm not violating somebody's rights and we're not, we're taking care of the community.
Yeah, I get that, and I'm not proposing at all that we become more of a stop and police type of approach. I would just ask that you speak with the chief and see if there's a proactive communication action we should be taking on this. Okay. Given it's summertime and a lot more people are on golf carts enjoying the weather, and in a hurry to make their tee time, and I see it all the time of folks just blowing through stop signs. I'm like, dude, you're still a vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have to follow the rules of the road, especially on the weekends where we have families in there. And then, there's with golf carts, unfortunately, if they ever get in any type of accident, there's going to be injuries, right? More than they are in a car. So if there's some, just consider if there's some proactive communication we need to be doing, especially this time of year around golf carts.
If I could add to that, I know in talking to Chief Fields, we haven't talked about golf carts as much, but the electric motorcycles and other things that are having
Evel Knievel's in our neighborhood,
increased issues with, and it would fit right into that of some proactive communication on the rules of the road for those. And I know that's getting more to a younger population that I think you're having issues with, not so much adults.
So if you don't mind if I speak on that. So those bikes that you're talking about, they're electric dirt bikes. Those are the ones that are illegal. They cannot be registered on the roadway and used on the roadway, even by a licensed motorcycle driver. So when we see them, we try to conduct a traffic stop and we make them call their parents. I've done it myself several times. Bring the parents there, educate them, because that's where it needs to happen. Get their driver's license, put them in the system as a warning for allowing an unlicensed driver to operate a motor vehicle. And then you have that as history. So whenever you pull that kid over again and the parents show up and you run his information or her, and you're like, oh, we already gave you a warning back in January for this. Well, we might not be able to give you a warning today, or we may have to tow it, or here's a citation. You're gonna have to speak with the judge about this now. So we're trying to take care of that because it's a problem everywhere. If you look on Leander, Cedar Park, every police department is posting stuff about these Centurion electric dirt bikes. I mean, there's going to be more to come. So this is just a new thing that's starting to come out, and it's going to be a problem moving forward that we're going to have to continuously address.
So if you're a licensed, under what conditions are those things legal on the roads? Any?
None, not at all.
Okay.
It's off-road use only.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so maybe communications on that as well would be helpful. Yeah.
And then there's a wattage restriction, that it needs to have pedals, and I think if we get with administration, put something out on the village website where people could have access to that would probably work really well.
I do like the communication. I was just thinking of when we've done communication recently, we're many times called a bunch of Karens, and we're trying to rule the government and, make people's lives horrible by giving them rules and having them follow them. So I'll just pre-warn you when you put that out there, you're going to get some comments back. And
yeah, you can't make everybody happy, but the thing is,
the law's the law.
If you let something go and somebody gets hurt, then we're not any better than where we were when we started. So
I thank you for the proactive communication on it.
So Alderman Sandor, any? Alderman Massey?
Yes. I was going to bring this topic up and not ask a bunch of questions about it tonight, but I do understand that the chief is having some rest time now, and that's great for him. And y'all are carrying a lot of weight with him gone too. My request was tonight was to say that the other night about 9 o'clock, I guess it was just dark and really dark, and I was pulling out of a parking lot on Main Street where my apartment is, and I saw this object to my left, and I didn't see it very well, but I thought I saw something move. Well, about 2 seconds later, 2 young boys, I think they were boys, they had helmets on, good for them, but they went flying past me with no lights. And I went, whoa. I mean, if I'd have pulled out on them, there's no way they'd have stopped in time, and I'm glad I saw them. It triggered me to come here tonight and say, I am certain that's a problem nationwide at this point with the innovation. It's a great toy for young men, young boys and girls, and I don't want to see them get hurt any more than I want to hurt one of them. And I don't know what y'all are going to do about it, but surely the police force nationwide, statewide, or something ought to be discussing this and coming to their community leaders and requesting or suggesting ideas for us to deal with through y'all. And I don't look to us to come to that solution. I look to y'all to make some recommendations or thoughts in that capacity. And I know that it's summertime and it may wane some in the future, but this is a new toy and I'm sure it's going to be incredibly popular. My point is just this. Would y'all please spend some time, talk with other police departments, come back and maybe not necessarily give us a verbal report, give us a written report that we can look at and digest that see what some of these options are to deal with it. Safety is a very, very important issue for us.
If you don't mind me speaking, so basically, what most other departments are doing, exactly what we're doing now, is we're trying to educate the parents, because they're the ones that are buying these things. And if you start holding the parents accountable, they'll get sick of getting tickets and everything else. It's no different than if a grown man decides to jump on a mini bike and ride down Williams. I mean, you can tow it, they can get it out the next day. Or write them a ticket, they pay the ticket, they can go and do it again. So, I mean, we're limited. We can't just take it and throw it in the shed and hold on to it.
Well, I understand that, but information should be more than just y'all stopping them. I think it should be more community-wide. So I'm suggesting perhaps some kind of PR campaign, either through the local paper, through your website, maybe both. Whatever the idea is, I think the word definitely needs to be out and concerted in the respect to the safety of what I'm after. It's like, yeah, I've seen y'all do that, and I appreciate it, and I think that's the best thing to do. But it's got to be more universal than that to really gain effect. And so
attack it from different angles.
Another,
gotcha.
We can help. Fine, if y'all could make a plan for that, or see what other people have done PR-wise for the whole community to know, I think that'd be helpful. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll work on that for sure.
Alderman Marufo?
No questions, no comments.
No other? Everyone ready to move on to the next item? All right, so workshop item 1C, discussion regarding the Convention and Visitors Bureau monthly report.
Howdy, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Dunch and Aldermen. This evening, I am presenting to you the Convention and Visitor Bureau report for June. I know that you've had a chance to go through it, so I won't go through all of it. Just hit some highlights. First, obviously, with our website, we do continue to see new visitors, new users and visits monthly, which always is a great thing. Some of the things that we thought were really important this month, and we were just, obviously everything is important, but to highlight is we did start going and seeing our hotel owners and visiting with them. We do have a good, strong rapport with them. We do send our Tuesday weekly reports to them. However, we all know that our schedules get busy, and with emails, sometimes they just, you lose touch with people. So we do try to connect and touch bases with them. And it's just great in building our relationships. We've also did an experiment and created a Facebook event. And the idea behind that is people do love to look for events in towns. And so we did a summer stay, and we did it for where we can highlight staying in summer for the whole summertime for Salado. And with that, we are able to keep Salado at the top front when people are looking at events. And then when all of our businesses already have events, and they're doing a great job with that, this just adds to it. It also, we have a scrub with our website. That also hits our website, another avenue there. So it just hits a lot of different bases with it. And the idea behind it too is we can hit discussions. So we share pictures of Salado. We share Salado Music Friendly throughout the week. Their music that they have. We share website links. Again, just another connect. It's a free advertising, so we thought we'd see how that works. And then also with that, with the fall season coming up, we would create that for all the events too, as another touch for Salado. And we did do that for the 4th of July, and then we came back after the 4th of July event and did the Salado Summer generic one as well. We'll see how that works. And then we're working on our website right now. We're working with the development team. We're discussing some enhancements and updates to improve the visitor experience and trip planning. So we're kind of looking at making it where we can do a blog that also raises our SEOs. When you start talking about AI, we want to stay in search with that and with analytics, and that'll help us to do that as well too when people start Googling us. And then we also had started on our 26-27 budget. And then as you go through our social media side, well, this is one of our favorite things we love to do is obviously share the Salado story, create images, create stories for people to want to come to Salado. And so we always, you get to see what's working and what's not. And so with that, we tell the Salado story. And some of the things that creativity we did this last month between Instagram and Facebook, we shared with over 82,000 views for the month of June. And that's always fun for us to do. Also with AI and social media, it's a matter of staying on top, creating a hook to get people to keep top of mind for Salado. And so that's just a fun challenge and being able to use our creativity. And then with that, as we've mentioned before, people, when they come to a tourism site, a lot of times, and I guess with COVID, as we've mentioned, they're looking for something nostalgic, something that puts them back on memories, puts them back where they were when they were a kid or with, when their kids were kids. And so obviously we know Salado does that. We have I-35 right here next to us. We're parallel to it, and we are the perfect getaway for it. And so what we did, we just created a simple image that showed a memory that when you're looking at that picture, you can put yourself in there and you see yourself in the photo book. And with that, that created over 13,000 views. So we were very excited for that, and we shared the picture with you on that there. And then ideally, our mission on the tourism side is always to keep telling Salado's story. We enjoy it, and we love getting anybody and everybody here. We love hearing their stories when they come and sharing those along as well too. And so that's what we will keep doing. And then that's all I have. If you have any questions, what you had seen on my report, I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Alderman Marufo, you want to start? No questions. Alderman Lessner?
No, that's a good report. I'm not all sure what you did. I'm sure you did a lot of it, a lot more as well as the other departments here. And by all sales concerned, it was just a phenomenal weekend, and I want to congratulate everybody and every person that worked on it. So we all served that.
Yep. Thank you. And that'll be in next month's report too. Yeah.
Alderman Sandler?
No comment.
I didn't have any questions, but Deanne, I went to the website and I had some questions on the website itself. Sure. I don't have to worry these guys with that, so maybe we can find some time. Yeah. After these meetings or sometime during the week.
You're always welcome. My door is always open for any of you guys. Please come and talk to me and share your ideas, share your thoughts too. I'm always open to any suggestions and your thoughts as well, and answer any questions.
Yeah, just I'll share one comment. Sure. I enjoy driving by the bridge and looking out there and seeing just all kinds of families waiting in the water. Yeah. With their picnic baskets and such. I was just thinking if there's a benefit of making that more forefront on the website as well. This is a family gathering place.
Yes. So one of the things that we have done that we are working on is we have about 3 or 4 different spots that say groups or venues. We've collaborated that and said they're going to change it to gatherings and groups for that change. And then on our budget that we have for next year, I do have a video that I would like for our website guide to do of the aerial area and do that kind of stuff as well too on our website.
Thank you. I'll connect with you.
Yep. Sounds good. Yep.
Deanna, great report. I just, for next month, I'm excited to see those reports.
Yeah.
I think the vibe was
oh my goodness, that was so fun.
Fantastic. 4th of July this year was just amazing. So, but in that report, are we going to be able to get from all the hotels their heads and beds?
I had asked for them to make sure that they had asked their employees to note that for the 4th of July, and I have asked for them to give me that report too, if they will.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you.
And we can move on to workshop agenda item 1D. Discussion regarding the request to waive vendor and food truck fees in the amount of $3,300 for the 2026 65th Annual Scottish Gathering and Highland Games, hosted by the Salado Museum and College Park.
Hello, thank you for having me. Yes, we are We asked that last year. Of course, it was a little up in the air about what the fees were. Last year, it was proposed to be $250. I don't really know all the logistics of that, but I don't think that was ever mandated. But the $100 is mandated this year. Since we've had the gathering, 64 years, except for COVID year, none of our vendors have ever had to pay additional vendor fees. We charge a vendor fee to the vendors. We have between around 25 to 30 merchandise vendors. Most of them are small vendors. We have one very large vendor that, and most all of them all just sell Celtic, Scottish, that oriented material. They don't sell what the Salado General Store sells. They don't sell what Strawberry Patch sells. They don't really sell what anybody else in town sells. So they are an outlier for the businesses. They don't compete with the businesses so much. Maybe for a little bit of their money, but they also, we bring around 3,000 people into town for the weekend, and they do shop. I know that from the merchants. They've all told me that they do. So we charge, our start out fee is $250 for a 10 by 10 booth. So if you add another $100 onto that booth, you're talking $350. And these are fairly small vendors for the most part. Some of them are larger, but we will probably lose, I'm going to guess, 25% of our vendors if they have to pay another $100 on top of what we charge. And that is a lot of our income and our profit. In 2025, we profited about $8,700 just in vendor fees. Of course, we have a little expense with that as well, but for the most part, that's what got us to the amount of money that we brought in last year. So like I say, it's not something we've also had to put off, because this was something we asked in December when Manny was still here. I don't know if y'all, I think Deanna said she gave that to y'all in your packet. It was a chart that looks like this. Program proposals for 2026 is what I did with 2025 and then again in 2026. And under the Scottish Gathering, we had asked for that. We would like to ask for the waiver of the food truck and mobile vendor permits, our merchandise vendor permits. So it's an ask. Like I say, I'm not saying that we won't have any vendors. We will have some, but it'll be reduced. I know that for a fact. So I'm thinking, we bring, in just last year alone, what we paid out about $5,500 in hotel rooms that we paid for ourselves. Plus, every hotel room was full in Salado, because I tried to get another couple of rooms the day of, because we had people came in that we weren't supposed to be covering their rooms, but they needed rooms, and there were no rooms available. So I do know that every room in hotel room in Salado was sold out during the Scottish Gathering. So that is our ask for this.
Hi. I did have a question. I thought there was a recent Texas-wide law that was passed that set up the fees for the food trucks specifically. That
is only on food trucks. We only have maybe one food truck.
Okay.
The rest of these are set up in tents, mobile units. Yeah. You would say they're not food trucks. The food truck is a totally different. So
the fee that you're asking for us to waive is for vendors. So you have a participation fee for them to be yes. part of Highland Games, which this year was fabulous.
It was.
I just want to say it was awesome. And what you're asking for is that the village not have an additional, was it $100 fee? Is that what we have here, John?
Yes. I think it's $100 for the year for vendors. So if a vendor comes in several times a year, they just pay the one. I think I could be wrong on that. They just pay the $100 fee.
Yes. So clarification back there, I think.
Okay. So I'm not really sure either. Like I said, this is brand new this year from what I understand, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, I love the Highland Games. I was just wondering if this has a ripple effect downstream, right? So we're talking about waiving, in essence, village fees for an event, which is a huge event for us.
Yes.
Does this mean that the next time we have any other event, music event or other events, that those groups would come to us as well and say, waive the fees for those? I know that's not your question, but it was going through my mind is I absolutely love to support the Highland Games. I just wasn't sure if this just had a ripple effect downstream by saying yes.
And the other thing is that we are a nonprofit, and it is our biggest fundraiser. So,
Right.
If we lose, say we lose 5 of our vendors, 5 times, that'd be $2,000 to $3,000 possible if several did not come because they wouldn't pay the extra $100. So.
Alderman Sandor?
So I spoke with Mrs. Jones about this in some depth, and things I learned, I was concerned about police presence and how they manage that, and what I learned was that they already hire off-duty Salado PD only. Is that right?
Yes.
And pay them that normal, whatever it is, fee per hour. Which I thought was good to hear. And then what we're looking at in our packet and what the Mayor Pro Tem read to open this discussion, is this 65 years in Salado?
Yes.
Okay.
Always in Salado.
Right, and then you've also talked about an average of maybe 3,000 people that will bring or generate to this event. I share Alderman Van Cura's concern, but we also have dealt with this on another event prior to the last election cycle for, I don't remember what it was called, but it had been here 26 years, and it was I think it was a chamber event. No, it wasn't this.
Was it the Packard event?
No. It was, I don't remember. It was Amanda Organ asked us to, that one, the wildflower deal. So it's similar, right? Like it's been ongoing for many years, and it is profitable for the village. And then they, because they've been doing this stuff in the village for so many years, they know and are using village resources, which I think is important also. It is a concern that I do share with you, but all we can really do, I think, is just take it on a case-by-case basis. And I mean, either way, we upset.
In the scheme of things, this is a small amount of fees, and the village is going to be fine with or without it. That wasn't the driving factor at all.
Sure.
I absolutely love the festival. Anything we do, support it. And if you're saying that this is going to make sure that more vendors will participate and even grow from last year, that's a positive for me.
And most of these vendors do come from away places, and they stay overnight also. Yeah. They'll spend 2 hotel nights themselves. Yeah. In addition,
and you're going to guarantee good weather as well, no rain.
Yes, yes, guarantee.
So nonprofit organizations like this, with this kind of track record and metrics that we can use to prove that this is beneficial to businesses in Salado and so on and so forth, leave me in favor of supporting it, with one small caveat, and that is to make sure that we have some way of knowing who your registration folks are.
Yes, we do.
We need something on record to tell us who's in our town.
Right, we can certainly do that. We have everyone's, and they also provide us with an insurance waiver or insurance.
So I don't know how staff would want to manage that, but
I'm going to look to Deanna or Gina. There's still a permit form they need to fill out and submit. I think what we would suggest is they still submit the permit form. If you so choose to waive the fee, we just not charge a fee, but that, to your point, the permit form will know who they are that way but there's no cost if you want to waive that fee.
But I think you were meaning for every vendor that
comes
in.
I'm talking for each vendor at the event.
Right.
I think just one document from your group.
And we can do that. We can provide
emailed
you.
over saying, here are the people that registered to our program, and here's who they are, here's their addresses, their point of contact, their normal information. I think that would be beneficial for PD if something came up.
And
that would be good. That way we know who the vendors that are tied to this event, not another vendor somewhere else in town that's not tied to the event. And that way we can differentiate in that regard.
I will also look back over that vendor report or request and make sure that I'm covering as many bases as you are as well. I think I probably am, but there may be something there that I've not. Like I said, we haven't sent out we usually send out our vendor registration forms 1st of May. So here we are, middle of July, and we haven't sent them out yet. So I can modify that if there's something specific on your application that I think needs to be on our application.
I just coordinate with Deanna or Gina or Letitia.
Okay. Well, I can see the form, so I can do that.
No further questions.
Alderman Lassiter?
Well, I think Alan and Jeff did Alderman Sandor and Alderman Van did a good job of asking questions on it. And it is, our top 2 events are by far and away the most, or the stroll in this event, right? And we've been doing this 65 years, and isn't there something in the process of maybe making the Scottish games home to Salado, or I'm not using the appropriate words, so what are we trying to do on that?
That is going through Congressman Brad Buckley, and we are going to try to name, because there is no Scottish city in Salado, or official Scottish city in Salado, so we want to make Salado the Scottish capital of Texas, and he's willing to write that up, but he can't do that until next year, or the end of the year, first of next year, before that can be done because of the Congress session. But yes, we are, and he is willing to do that for us.
Is there anything you need from the village, like a proclamation, something that we can do to help that? Because that would be wonderful.
Well, and we've got, that's a separate thing, and I'm not sure how all that's working. We're doing a Founders Day, which is separate from this, and I kind of got confused about what proclamations was going where. But I think it would be great to do a proclamation, especially being 65 years. Yeah. That's a long time. I was born 65 years ago as well, so and that's a long time. I'm pretty amazed at how, I don't know of many other events anywhere that has run a continuous 65 years. I think that's pretty impressive.
If I could just add to that, staff has been contacted about a proclamation, so to this topic that will be coming, we're working through that.
I think that'd be a great idea and certainly worthy in that respect. So I on a broader picture, I will be asking the Mayor Pro Tem to come back and review our our vendor and special event ordinances. That's coming. I think that needs to be looked at again this year. And so I think there's some input from some of the people in town with respect to that I've already talked to that seem to have a very justifiable approach to it. So I think that's coming, moving back into the Scottish games. I hope y'all are successful with that. I fully support it. I can make an exception any day of the week for such an exceptional event as that, and what it contributes to this town, its notoriety. So
thank you.
That's all I have to say. Thank y'all for a wonderful event.
Thank you.
Alderman Russell?
No question, but thank you for doing that.
No, I'm going to just, some final comments. I absolutely think the ordinance needs to be re-looked at. There was concern when it came across about a year ago. I think we're deterring one-time folks from coming at all, because you got to pay a whole $100. Let them come in, get a taste for it, then if they want to come back multiple times, they can buy. So I think the ordinance needs to be looked at. So I think I fully support getting that onto the agenda. But thank you for a wonderful event.
Thank you.
And for the support that you've given us over the years.
Okay,
so thank you.
I'm not sure which is the hardest, putting on the Scottish gathering with 3,000 people or 18 6 to 12-year-olds in camp all week, which is what I've done all week long. So I don't know which is the hardest, but it may be the camp, but it's a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I think the next agenda item is the village administrator's updates and reports. So,
just 3 things pretty quickly. We are in the process of working through the budgeting preparations for next year's fiscal year budget. We have, we being myself and our financial accountant have met now with all cities department heads who have previously submitted their department budget requests. We're finalizing some tweaks to that, and we will be moving forward with that, which will be on track to come to you all in August with that. So we'll be providing more information to you, more detailed information on that over the within the next few weeks. Just an update. Unfortunately, I'm not able to give specifics. We've had a number of meetings recently with developers that are interested in doing more commercial development as well as residential development. So the point to that is not who it is or where it is, but just the continued interest in development and growth in Salado and the Salado area. So as I said, both commercial and residential. So right now it's just talk. Nothing formally has been submitted, but I wanted to just say there's continues to be interest. So and then lastly, in your packet tonight, we introduced something new that you may or may not have noticed, but we did a staff report at the beginning of each agenda item. We hope that you found that helpful as a summary to the information on each agenda item and kind of clarifying what you're being asked or not asked, if the case may be. So if you have feedback after looking at it or receiving that for one meeting, would please let me know if there's any tweaks to that or additions to that you would like made. So that's it.
Okay, with that, is there any other further business? Okay, then I will make a motion to adjourn. I have a second.
For the record, shortest meeting ever in 26 years.
We're adjourned. Ladies and gentlemen, the July 16, 2026 regular meeting of the Village of Salado Board of Aldermen will come to order, this time at 6:33 p.m. Madam Secretary Kathy, will you please call roll?
Mayor England, Mayor Pro Tem Dunn,
Present.
Alderman Sanborn,
Here.
Alderman Lassiter, Alderman Ventura, Alderman Maruso.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board, we have 5 members that are present, 1 that is not, a quorum is present.
Thank you. Let us begin with a moment of prayer and reflection. Gracious and loving God, creator of all, we gather today as a Board of Aldermen for the Village of Salado with grateful hearts. We ask for your guidance and your wisdom as we conduct the business of the village. Grant us clear minds to understand the matters before us, open hearts to listen to one another and respect, with sound judgment to make decisions that are fair, just, and truly in the best interest of the Village of Salado and all of its residents. Help us to set aside our personal agendas and to work together in unity for the common good. May our deliberations strengthen our community, honor those we serve, and build a better future for our families and neighbors. We offer this prayer in spirit of humility and service. Amen.
We will open up items for public comment that are not on the agenda. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues as items concerning not on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and serve a time of the speakers will have one opportunity to speak at a time. Inquiries about the matters not listed on the agenda will be directed for Alderman. No discussion will final action will be taken by the Board of Aldermen during the public comment period. And with that, we have 2.
Okay. I don't think I printed out enough. My name is Katie Hill, 1221 Baines, and I wanted to talk to you tonight about the Special Event Ordinance 2025-23. When you passed it last year, you listened to us and you made some revisions, and it was much better than the original draft, but it could still be better. Recently, Salado lost the Music Association of Central Texas's free annual music festival to Waco because of this ordinance. We can make some simple changes to this ordinance that I think would bring that music festival back and encourage other festivals and events and event producers to look at Salado again. Specifically, it was the vendor fees that ultimately made them choose to go to Waco instead. They are a 501c3, and it just wasn't workable for them to hold their event here anymore with the additional $100 annual fee for each vendor. So in the handouts I'm giving you, there are 2, one from me and one from David Seward from the Salado Music Friendly Community. And the first handout with the writing in black and red, that one goes line by line through the ordinance, and I'm happy to sit down with you to go through it with you. I try to identify each paragraph by its number, 4.A.4. whatever. But I have in that handout like specific revisions and just notes about things that could be removed. Also, this ordinance 2025-23 covers mobile food vendors. As you know, the state of Texas just changed all of that rule. And so this ordinance also needs to be revised to go in accordance with the new state law that was effective July 1st. And so I would hope that you would consider that too. Finally, that ordinance also talks about farmers markets. And in one paragraph, farmers in the state of Texas or Bell County are listed as not itinerant vendors, but then later in the ordinance, it's charging producers, like actual farmers, a $25 market fee annually. And so that language needs to be cleaned up so it's not confusing. The state of Texas last year passed the cottage food law, which meant that like home bakers, no fee. They don't have to pay anything, but that doesn't apply to farmers. And the Salado's previous ordinance did not charge farmers anything to sell their produce here in Salado, but this ordinance, the way it's been written and applied, we're charging them $25 a year. So I think that could be cleaned up too. And I'm happy to go over with you line by line all of the suggestions. I also had some other business owners look at this. They agree with the revisions I'm proposing. And then the music-friendly people, their specific revisions have to do with keeping Salado music-friendly for musicians and music producers, music events. This 2025-23 could be friendlier for musicians. So I hope that you'll take this, workshop it, and I really think it could be better. And maybe I forgot to mention it. Going back to like the museum, one of the things that I'm recommending is that there's a paragraph or two in here specifically about nonprofits. We lost the music festival because even though they're a nonprofit, they have to pay the special event fee. Their vendors have to pay the vendor fee. So my proposal is that nonprofits, schools, these entities that are institutions that have a history of doing good in Salado and bringing these great events to Salado would have that fee waived, and it would either be written in there or the vehicle for that path for them to move forward with their application with the expectation that it could be waived would be actually written into the ordinance. Yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. The second one that we have, Elizabeth Whitfield.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Aldermen. My name is Elizabeth Whitfield. I live at 1800 Chisholm Trail in Salado. I've lived in Salado for 30 years and in my current home for 25 years. I realize the topic I'm speaking about is not on tonight's agenda. However, I wanted to share my thoughts now because I believe this issue could have a significant impact on my life and on many other longtime residents. Over the years, I've lived in cities, big cities, small towns, and several military bases. I chose to make Salado my home because it was a rural community where people enjoyed more freedom to use and care for their property responsibly. At the time I moved here, there wasn't even a Village of Salado, the incorporation. And one of the reasons I chose this community was because it did not have a homeowners association telling people what they could and could not do with their property. In the 30 years I have lived here, I've never seen an issue between neighbors like the current issue being discussed with RVs become the basis for creating a new ordinance affecting everyone. Throughout my life, when neighbors had disagreements, they talked to each other and tried to work things out. I remember sitting in this very room several years ago when a resident complained about his neighbor's storage building. The village manager explained that that was a civil matter between neighbors and that if they could not reach an agreement, the courts, not the village, would be the place to resolve it. I appreciated hearing someone from the village office pointing out at Tuesday night's Planning and Zoning Committee meeting that deed restrictions and covenants are private civil matters between property owners and are not enforced by the village. I believe this distinction is important. My concern is that creating ordinances to settle disputes between neighbors sets a precedent that could gradually reduce the rights of everyone in our community. It has the potential to create more conflict between neighbors rather than less. Salado has grown considerably over the years, and many new residents have come here from larger cities or neighborhoods governed by homeowners association. And I understand that people bring different expectations with them. However, many of us chose Salado precisely because it offered a different way of life based on one's personal responsibility, respect for neighbors, and reasonable freedom. As someone who owns a travel trailer, this issue is deeply personal to me. Before I purchased my trailer, I contacted the village to make sure I understood every requirement. I followed every rule that I was given. I made my purchase believing I was in full compliance with village regulations. Now at almost 70 years old, I'm faced with the possibility the rules could change after I relied on them. My travel trailer is only 17 foot long, the same length as the SUV I drive. My travel trailer is well maintained, used regularly, and kept behind the front setback of my property. If a new ordinance prevents me from keeping my trailer behind the front setback or on my property, I will be forced to make a choice, either sell my home after living in it for 25 years or sell my travel trailer and give up the lifestyle that has allowed me to remain active, independent, and engaged in my retirement and older years. I don't believe that this is the outcome anyone intends, but it's a very real consequence for residents like me who have followed the rules and have been good neighbors for many years. I respectfully ask that as you consider whether a new ordinance is necessary, you will also consider those of us who have lived here peacefully in this community for decades, maintained our property, complied with every requirement, and simply want to continue enjoying the homes and lifestyles we have worked so hard to build. Please don't let the actions or disagreements of a few determine what the rest of us are allowed to do on our own property. Thank you for your time and your service and your thoughtful consideration. And then I'd like to give y'all copies of how I have my property set up.
To open up anything else that's not on the agenda that anyone would like to discuss. Okay. With that, we will move to items on the agenda. The Board of Aldermen welcomes comments from citizens on issues and items of concern on the agenda. Those wishing to speak must sign in before the meeting begins and observe a 5-minute time limit when addressing the board. Speakers will have one opportunity to speak per agenda item during this time. Public comments on the agenda items will only be received during this portion of the meeting. No discussion or final action will be taken by the Board of Aldermen during the public comment period of the meeting. I didn't have any that was sent in, but I'll open it up if anyone has a discussion they'd like to present on agenda items. Okay, with that, we will move to the consent agenda. I will open it up for discussion or accept a motion to approve as is.
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve consent agenda item A as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say aye. That passes. Okay, so there was nothing off the agenda, so we will move for discussion, consideration, and possible action. Next agenda item is discussion and consideration of possible action regarding the request to waive the vendor food truck fees in the amount of $3,300 for the 2026 65th Annual Scottish Gathering and Highland Games, hosted by the Salado Museum and College Park. And with that, I will open it up to Alderman Sandor.
I don't want, I hope that the board will consider making this as easy as possible on this organization. 65 years later, that's a pretty good track record. And 3,000 people plus or minus participating is more people than we have in our town, so that's also pretty good. I think that this organization has demonstrated nothing but the utmost professionalism and use of local amenities and resources, which I appreciate. And I don't have any other comments, Mayor Pro Tem.
Alderman Lassiter?
I wish I was as articulate as Alderman Sandor, so I don't have anything else to add to that. Thank you.
Alderman Marupo?
Nothing to add to that.
Alderman Ventura?
Nothing to add, thank you.
If I could make one suggestion, if the motion is to approve, I'd recommend not limiting it to $3,300. That was an estimate that they provided, and I'd hate to run into if they get more vendors that we can't waive the fees beyond it. We're limited to only waiving fees up to $3,300, so not limit. If the motion is to approve the request, I would suggest or recommend not putting a dollar amount on there and just waive all fees associated with their event.
So my only other comment for this would be if they're here, we would still have a list given to us. Of, I think it was Alderman Sandor that of the providers, vendors that are in the village. Would they be required to issue their sales tax for what they sold that week?
Yes,
weekend
they would still. That's
still going to be a requirement.
Sales tax would still be collected, or the vendors would still be required to pay the sales tax to the state that we would collect. They would still. You're waiving the fees, but you're not waiving the requirement for them to provide us a list of the vendors. So
the vendors,
we would still need.
Still for which they sell, they would have to provide that to the state.
Correct.
Which we would get a cut.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that that's still part of the process, because there's lots of small businesses that's only right. So, okay, then I don't have any other questions. I will open the floor. Oh. Yes, yes. Okay. I will open, if there's any other comments, then I will open for a motion.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to approve the waiver of the vendor fees on this. Inclusive with that is an understanding that the application registration forms with the village will be complied with, and the sales tax will be paid in accordance with state law. And I think that's it.
Anyone want a second?
Second.
Discussion? Okay, and we'll go ahead and put a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All not in favor, say aye. That passes 5-0. All right, on to the next agenda item is discussion and consideration of possible action regarding the accepting the resignation of Municipal Court Judge Clifford Coleman. I'll open it up for questions or discussion for Alderman Ventura.
No questions. I guess we're going to cover at some point in time his replacement in this discussion as well. Next agenda. Okay, so no questions, but thanks to Cliff for his service.
Alderman Marupo.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate it.
Alderman Lassiter.
No questions.
Alderman Sandor.
Thanks, Judge. Good job.
Only final comment, thank you, Judge, for all your service, and hope to see you around the neighborhood. So, with that, if there's no other questions or discussions, I will open the floor for a motion.
I'm gonna make a motion, Mayor, to accept the Honorable Cliff Coleman's resignation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, I'm sorry, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. All right, we got that passes 5-0. Final discussion item C, discussion consideration of possible action regarding appointing a municipal court judge for the Village of Salado. Open this up. Alderman Sandor, any questions?
Yes. Do we have a candidate or several?
We have not advertised this or asked for anybody to apply for this, if you will. If you'd like to do that, you can table this. We can then do that and ask for people that are interested to submit their letters of interest or an application, whatever we want to call that.
What is the request of the board on the agenda tonight for this item?
If you have people that or anyone that you would like to nominate and then choose or select to serve in that role.
Okay, then if Mayor Pro Tem will allow for it, is there anyone in the room that wants to do this job, that wants to stand up and speak about it? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, come on up.
You'll just name, address, and tell us why you want to do this job, please.
Michael Tice, 6309 Bow Allen Court here in Salado. As many of y'all know, I was duly elected here to run for Justice of the Peace. I have been shadowing Judge Cliff Coleman here for the last month and a half since I've won this election, to include in municipal court. I believe it's important to have a local person to be your municipal judge who understands the community and what we're facing here. On top of that is, it's very easy to, it's very beneficial to have your JP as your city magistrate as well, because sometimes cases may need to go up to a higher court and things like that. And on top of that, I'll be doing all the training here for JP and adding the magistrate training in there as well for the city. Is on my agenda item because I do want to be certified in that. And I look forward to serving the community for a long time. So the one thing, like I said, when I ran for JP, is you know who your candidate will be for the next 27 years, barring that you guys would accept me. I'm open to any discussion or questions that you have for me.
Any question, Alderman Sandor, additional? Alderman Lassiter?
No question.
Alderman Marufo?
No questions. No questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.
So only my question is, any position I think should have a net put out, and I just don't know what the other board members feel about that, but I just, there's no question Mr. Tice is well qualified and want to go through, but I do think it should be a net put out there. But
yeah, I think we're responsible to do exactly what Mr. Benson mentioned, and that would be something that staff would take care of, I presume.
So what would be the time frame so we can come back and?
I think we'd want to put something on our website, probably in the newspaper as well, and on our social media. So the timing of the newspaper, getting it, we have time, I think, to get it in next week's paper. And then whatever time period we want to allow, a week or 2 weeks, or and then bring it. We could collect those and then bring those back to at a future board meeting. Whether that's the next regular meeting is August 6th, or if we can turn around that quick. I forget, when is the next municipal court date?
The first Tuesday of each month at 3 o'clock. I will know.
So that would be August 4th. So which would probably be prior to the next docket, municipal court docket, though. And I don't know what's on that docket.
Yeah, because you want to come on up and speak.
Did everybody hear me back there?
Yeah.
So I'll be careful with the microphone then. Okay. So I have signed everything I need to sign for the orders for the driver safety courses up to date. So as far as I know, I got with Gina to make sure that I could go in there and signed everything I need to sign so I wouldn't have to come back up here Friday or Monday morning. So if you decided not to have elect or appoint a municipal judge, you would have to probably not have court on the first Tuesday of Wednesday and just put everything of August and put everything to September. That's not the end of the world. You could do that if that's what you want to do. Does that make sense? Because you just can't do this and then next day have it done because you've got to change some documentation regarding that with who the new judge is. So.
And if I know he accepted his resignation, but it's effective July 22nd?
No, the 20th. 20th. Monday at noon.
Monday, so we have the rest of this week to do that documentation that he'd be able to do.
Isn't it true, Judge Coleman, that if hypothetically J.P. Tice, or soon to be
Judge-elect Tice,
thank you, were to do that job, or he would be chosen to do that job, I believe in conversation with Mr. Tice, there's some training that comes along with
Correct.
that before he is even eligible?
No, he has a year. He has a year. If you were, hypothetically, if you were to appoint him today, he would have 1 year from the time he took office to take 38 plus probably 16 hours of municipal training. And then he has to get that done through the TME, the Texas Municipal Court, I forget what it's called, TMCC, to be able to get that done. So he has 1 year to get that done. And the same with him as a justice of the peace. He has 80 hours, probably 120 hours he has to take for training for the justice of the peace. And he has 1 year from the time he's sworn in to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
So similar rules.
Sure. And so, Mr. Benson, do you have concern that expediting this across the next 2 weeks might be too hasty?
No, I don't have any concerns about that. I think we can do that. I'm not familiar with what's on the docket for the August 4th meeting and what that would do, or how many cases would have to wait till September.
I don't recall anything crazy penny. I know we put something off, but nothing that wouldn't wait. That if it needed to wait another month, it would be okay.
So that would give us time to advertise the opening, receive interest, and then bring that to a board meeting. Probably not on the 6th, but probably on August 20th. Or at a special meeting if you wanted to do that.
Well, I just wonder if, I don't know what I don't know. I'm just kind of guessing out loud that there's not going to be a very, very long list of, I don't think there's going to be a line out the door of people itching to get in and do that job. I think there could be some others, though. I've heard of some others locally express interest, so I think we're responsible to put it out to everybody and give them the opportunity to decide if they want to make public application or not. Why that would take a month, though, I guess we could.
I'm just saying a month because of to bring it back to you on the board meeting schedule now. You can choose to have a special meeting for this and expedite that a little bit faster. It's really not the advertising time that's holding it up. It's just the sequencing of the board meetings and in combination with that.
Okay, so then with that said, in my opinion, the only reasonable way to do this would be to consider what Judge Coleman just proposed, and that would give us a month. Well, and then we wouldn't be holding up any that we know of significant items that should be coming to court. We're talking about traffic tickets and these kinds of things.
And if you needed to, if in the meantime, if you wanted to reach out to a temporary judge, I could provide somebody, that's not judge-elect ties to taint anything or any decision. Municipal Judge Wilkie, who is municipal judge for Morgan's Point, who's a justice of peace in Precinct 3, if he needed to, in a temporary situation, be able to come down and sign what you need to sign, there could be probably, now I'm starting to talk about, I'm thinking there's not even a board, a temporary appointment by the mayor. And then in addition to that, the mayor can sign things for the municipal judge as well. That's so that you have that as well.
So then really, it would be responsible to allow that amount of time and not try to get it to the next board meeting, but rather the following, so in a month from now.
Yeah,
that would allow everybody time. No one could say that we hurried it along, which we've heard before. Yep. And it would give people an opportunity to consider if they want to do it, make applications. Then we could get that information from staff like we would normally and have it to review ahead of a meeting, just like anything else in our packet, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we'd get with the newspaper, like I said before, just the newspaper website, our social media pages, and then I think set a deadline for submittal, and that would put that in advance. So we receive that, and we can provide that in your meeting packet for the August 20th meeting. And I think that gives at least 2 weeks for people, a rough 10 days, 2-week time period for people to reply and submit.
Well, thank you, Mr. Benson and Judge Coleman, Mayor Pro Tem. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Alderman Lassiter?
No, I think you've covered it well, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Alderman Sanders.
And I want to say, I want to publicly thank the staff that has helped throughout the years, not this staff here, but also previous staff as well, that has made the seamless and the transition, when I first came on, and then the work that I do. I mean, I just sit up on the bench. They do most of the work, and I recognize that. So the clerks there for the village. Thank you.
Thank you for your service again. Thank you. Alderman Rufo, any questions?
No questions.
Just want to think through this a little bit. I'm all for opening up and being transparent. I'm just trying to think of what a selection process would look like. None of us here have a law background, if I understand correctly. And so I'm trying to think through what criteria would we use to determine one candidate versus another in terms of their applicability for the role. Are we going to be looking for an expert opinion from other judges in the area? Are we going to use other criteria to determine which candidate best fits the needs of a city magistrate? I know I personally don't have the ability to ascertain, besides the personality aspects, what would make a better city magistrate, one versus another. We went through a process which is fairly comprehensive and to some a little bit lengthy to bring John on here, where we had a number of candidates screened and then shortlisted, extensive interviews, chances to meet with the community, and then eventually made a decision as to who we wanted to offer the position to. I'm not suggesting for a moment we would do that here, but I just don't know what a process would look like to pick a city magistrate would look like. Assuming we will get some, I don't know how many, some number of respondents saying, consider me for that job. I don't know how I would evaluate them to say, this one's better than that one. That's my concern, is we're a little bit in an uncharted area here. Now, if we could point to, some expertise that might be able to give us what to look for, what to consider, how do you evaluate, like we had that help from CTOG for city manager, I think that'll be helpful, but I don't know if there's such things available to us as village aldermen to help us understand what we don't know.
I think the cause is a good point. I think we could lean on them because they would have resources, if not in-house and somewhere else, that they could offer us. And that's what they're there for. If Mr. Benson has any experience in doing this, that would be interesting. And then I would say, beyond reading resumes and things that would be presented to us prior to a meeting, that would offer us an opportunity to have discussion, and I would presume reach out independently. I would recommend in the presence of the village administrator to have phone conversation or otherwise with legal counsel who might be able to help us with that. You make up a good point. I'm supporting your point. I think you thought a little deeper into it than I did, which I appreciate.
And just I want to point out, right, we did just go through an election, right, and now I understand the city magistrate is different and the JP, we just went through an election where the people voted and said, this is the person we want to do this job. Now, I understand that two are separate, but I just want to keep that in mind that there was a large effort to vet, debate, and ultimately choose Mike Tice as the JP for the area.
Mayor Pro Tem, can we have Judge Coleman come back up?
Judge Coleman, do you mind coming back up, please?
Not quite yet. Okay.
Could you tell us what the process was when you were chosen to do this for Salado, please, sir? Since none of us were present for that.
Right.
So when I was elected as Justice of the Peace, there was the municipal judge was the former Justice of the Peace, Judge Engelking. The board at that time wanted the Justice of the Peace to be the municipal judge. And so I was asked if I would, if they appointed me, would I serve? And I said yes. And so then it got a little bit out of whack at the last minute. I know it's coming as a shock. At the last minute, there was somebody made a motion that they wanted to interview both Judge Engelking and myself in a public forum. We basically sat at the table right here and interviewed. Judge Engelking went, and then I went outside, and I just, quite honestly, I kind of felt like that was a little bit of a dog and pony show. I didn't appreciate that at that time, getting put in that position. But it's what the board and administrator at that time wanted to do. So that's what we did. The alderman voted me in as a municipal judge. So that was the way that worked. I don't know if they put it in the paper or whatever. I don't know how they opened the process up, but they had a public forum and then voted on it, which I don't think that was a very good idea to do it that way. Any other questions? That makes sense, kind of what happened? Okay.
It does make sense. Could you tell the board generally what it is that you come up here and do for Salado?
Sure. Well, there's a couple different functions. The main function, the most visible function, would be sitting where Mayor Pro Tem is sitting right now, and I would be I'm the presiding municipal judge, and I'm sitting up there, and in some ways holding the line. We have a prosecutor, the Village of Salado prosecutor sits at this table. We have folks that have pled not guilty. This is docket call. We have folks that have pled not guilty. I admonish them. I give them, basically advise them of what their rights are regarding a Class C misdemeanor case or an ordinance violation. And then they meet with the prosecutor to try to resolve this case before we go to trial. Now, if it's not resolved, they have every right to have a jury trial or a bench trial. And we've had those, both jury and bench trials in this village. We haven't had a whole lot, but we have had both. So most of the time, this gets resolved between the prosecutor and the defendant, and we don't do that. We don't have to go to trial. But there's also those times where the prosecutor wants to, in the interest of justice, maybe not hold that line as well as what the judge wants to hold the line. And so things are brought to the judge to determine whether or not that the judge is going to accept that. And so that is, making that decision in that aspect. The other thing that we do is all these orders have to be signed. Every judgment, every order has to be signed, which is what I was talking about, that I went with Gina, that I went in there and did that before, between the two meetings today and finished, got everything up to date there. So I come in once, maybe twice a month, other than docket call. to come in and sign all the paperwork that needs to be signed.
And what would you say is the majority of the items that you have to make judgment on up here in Salado?
Well, it's a wide range.
Does it move all around? It's not
Alderman,
just...
I mean, speeding tickets, running stop signs, the juvenile, aspects of this, and there's a learning curve with that part of it, as what we talked about when Judge-elect Tice was up here, that he was up here with me when we had a couple of juveniles and it's just the process is different for juveniles than it is adults. It's just knowing that you become comfortable, once you know the process of doing it.
Okay. And I don't mean to give you so many questions. It's just
That's
trying
okay.
to have the board understand.
I have nowhere else to be tonight. I'm here all night if you needed me to be.
Yeah, just, I respect Alderman Van Kuren's concern. I don't know how much I share it, but I do respect it. So I didn't think this would be, I just thought we needed to put it out, take applications, and then try to read resumes and see who we thought, or what the majority of the board thought would be the best person. I'm not sure, hearing that we need legal experience to do that, but if any of us believe that we do, then we should just take into that, I suppose.
Alderman Lester, anything else?
I don't have anything for Judge Coleman. He's answered all the questions that I'd like to ask and more, so I'm okay with your comments. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. You don't have to stand there for me. Right. If you want to stand there for the rest, that's fine.
Anybody else?
Anybody else, any questions?
I have some more comments.
Oh, he's not done yet.
Yeah, maybe, okay. Thank you. I don't think we, anybody? You may sit down, yeah. Thank you. All right, anything else?
Yes, and I know Alderman Van Kuren said this is not the same as hiring the city manager, and the process to me doesn't need to be that far in depth and taking that much time. But I do think it's important to, that I've been asked what the process would be and would it be open, and I said I don't know because I haven't been through this process before. None of us here have been, so this is a new ground for me along the way, but fundamentally I think in a situation like this, it's our responsibility to make sure we do it as best we can. And in that light, I think we need to advertise it. I would ask, rather than, I'm suggesting we consider skipping SITCOG on that and ask our new city manager to maybe prepare some kind of plan for us to work upon in terms of reviewing qualifications, resumes, whatever it is forthcoming, and then put it on our agenda, and maybe we just do somewhat similar to what we did last time, as Alderman pick 2 or 3 at the most people, if there are 2 or 3 that apply for it, and then just have them come in. Now, I'm okay with missing 1 meeting and backing it up, but I think there's plenty of time between our regular scheduled meetings and a special meeting to get there if we need to, and not spend an inordinate amount of time on it. Yes, it's important. It is important, but it's not near the level of the other things we have on our plate to deal with. So I'm not discounting the importance of the municipal judge. I'm just basically saying I think it's fair and right to open it up and see what else comes forth us to make a prudent decision given what information we have and move forward. So, summation, I'd ask for the city manager to prepare a brief outline as to what we do. I think we could all look on all these AI sites and see what a municipal judge does and pare that down, and then look at qualifications, and maybe in one special meeting we can come to conclusion and be done with it. I was here the night that Judge Coleman was interviewed with Judge Engelking, and I have to agree with him. I thought that was a very awkward evening, and I think it was unfair to both parties, quite frankly, to be placed in that. So I'm not an advocate of that process and with anybody going forward. So that's my suggestion. We put it in the hands of our city manager, give us a plan that we can tacitly say, yeah, sounds good, keep our timeline to no more than 1 month and push it back and make sure we're there by then. That we have someone coming on before the following meeting well in advance of it. That's all I have to say.
Alderman Russo?
Nothing to add.
Alderman Negro?
I just want to say that was very eloquent, Jim. I don't disagree with anything you said, and I'm also excited about the fact that we can get a chance to have you use AI. So that's gonna be an interesting thing to watch itself.
It's a new word in my vocabulary. I just wanted to let you know, mainframe's coming forward.
Yeah, but the rest of it, well stated, understood.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to add a comment. I want to thank Mr. Tice for throwing your name in the hat. Appreciate it. Appreciate your service. Thank you. But I do feel like putting a net out there is versus trying to push it through. It is an important position. Extremely important. I mean, people, and so I think, putting a net out there, it seems like the right thing to do versus just rushing it through. So I will open the floor. Do we table this, or do we open the floor to give you direction?
Just consensus. There doesn't need to be a motion, but just consensus on the direction. If you want to go with what Alderman Lassiter described, I'm happy to do that and move forward in that regard.
Take the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, if you want a motion, I'll put it in that form if it needs to be. If it doesn't,
I have an understanding. And you don't need to table it. We can just move, and we'll bring it back to you on August 20th, which is a month from tonight. And in the meantime, we'll advertise, and staff will put together some criteria and follow up with you on the criteria.
Okay.
Via
then
email.
We will move this agenda item to next Alderman meeting. Okay. And with that, are we doing an executive session?
There's no update, so no need for executive session this evening.
Okay. Then I guess I will open the floor for adjournment. No.
Discussion, consideration, possible action on 7B.
That was part of the executive session.
Yeah, you're
just talking about executive session.
Yes, that is part of the executive session.
So we're not going to be dealing with the guns issue tonight?
Not tonight. There's a public hearing that you have to hold, which is scheduled for August 6th before you can take action on that item.
Why is it on the agenda?
It was just 7A and 7B tied back to the executive session. And those two executive session items are standing items on the agenda right now. From the time it's published because we took one of those off a few weeks ago, and from the time the agenda was published to the night of the meeting, we did have an update, but we didn't have the executive session on the agenda, so we weren't able to meet with you. So for that reason, we just left those on as standing executive sessions if needed.
I understand why there's possible action on it. If it wasn't going to be a possibility, but I don't understand why it's on there. I mean, you said we need to have a public hearing now? I thought we were ready to make a decision on this.
So there's an application to amend the zoning ordinance to dealing with gun shops in the historic district. That there's a legal process that has to go through. It went through the Planning Commission on Tuesday evening. They held a public hearing. They did take a vote that's a recommendation, but the legal process requires the Board of Aldermen to also hold a public hearing on that amendment, which is scheduled for August 6th. And there's a public hearing notice that publishes this week in the Village Voice. and then that will come back to you with the recommendation from the Planning Commission on August 6th. So after that public hearing and you receive that recommendation from the Planning Commission, you can take action to amend or not to amend the zoning ordinance.
That is coming from legal, that those are the steps that we are having to take to do
Yes.
this.
Yes.
If we, I guess dismayed.
That's in context.
Word on this.
That's in context. We've talked with the Dankers, the applicants on this. They're aware of this also. That's in context to ensuring that our city code complies with state statute. Because otherwise, if you made a decision prior to that, you would be superseding our city code without following the amendment process of our city code, or zoning ordinance in this case.
Are we even allowed to do what we're doing right now, given how this is written and where it's written on this agenda?
No, technically, no.
Okay.
Well, yes, to discuss it, but not to. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Are we allowed to discuss this?
No,
we're not allowed to
no,
discuss
it's not on the agenda, so no, you can't go into public discussion.
Yeah, I guess I missed something somewhere also, and if it's on me, then I apologize to everybody for bringing up these questions. But I thought we were, I thought that at the last meeting when I was out of country, I thought that y'all got legal counsel on this, perhaps.
We did. If I can back up.
And then I went to P&Z Tuesday, and I know what happened there, and I was thinking that staff would present to us whatever P&Z's recommendation was tonight at some point for consideration and a possible action.
So if I can back up a step, I would recommend we go into executive session on this topic and see if we can contact our city attorney and talk to her on the question you have.
I think we should too.
Okay, with that, I will go into executive session at 7:25.
On the agenda.
The Board of Aldermen will go into executive session in pursuit of Texas Government Code Section 551.071 Texas Government Code and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules and Professional Conduct with legal counsel regarding a request to allow a firearm store in the historic overlay district and discuss related to any threatened legal action.
regular session at 8:00. Discussion,
this 071 Texas Government Code and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules for Professional Conduct with legal counsel regarding a request to allow firearms store in the Historic Overlay District and discuss related to any threatened legal action. So with that, I will open it up to discussion. Alderman Sandor.
Yeah, so Mr. Benson, do we have we been threatened with legal action?
There's been no one has threatened to sue the city over this issue.
Thank you. I don't have anything further.
Alderman Lassiter.
Appreciate you asking that question. I think it's important to know that that's the answer, and I appreciate the acknowledgement of it. Thank you.
Alderman Rufo.
No questions.
Alderman Dankura.
No questions.
Well, with that, I will open up for a motion in regards to the Dankers and the firearms permit.
I have a recommended motion. A statement first, I guess. The Board of Aldermen recognized that state law in this case supersedes the village ordinance that was in place that restricted gun shops in the historic district. Also recognize that, and I guess encourage the ammo can to continue to proceed with the required paperwork such that they can have occupancy and open up their business. The motion is for PNC and the Board of Aldermen to complete their ordinance update process such that our ordinance is now updated to be reflective and in line with state law regarding to allowing a gun shop in the historic district.
We'll open that up for a second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All also say no, say aye. No, that passes 5-0. Dankers, welcome. Just want to thank you for your patience, and it's clearly our ordinances needed to be updated, which is a process. Government kind of takes a while, but thank you very much for your patience. We're looking forward to visiting your shop in the near future, so congratulations. And with that, I will make a motion for adjournment.
Well, yeah. Before we do that, I would like to say the same thing personally to y'all, that thank you for the way y'all chose to handle this matter and the patience you exercised, and couldn't wish you any more than the very best with your endeavor. Thank you.
Any discussions?
No, I echo the same thing. Thank you guys for being patient.
Okay, with that, I will make a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
8:04, we are adjourned.